My initial thoughts in this episode: Hartor's an idiot. Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and this is my review for Tokyo Ravens Episode 7. Kinda late, but I had work, so had to get done. So I'll try to make up for it by making this a quick review. Probably not going to happen since a lot of stuff happened in this episode, but I'm just going to get started. Um, the beginning stuff is pretty much all just prep for the exams. They have a written one which Hardcore pretty much fails, and they have a practical exam. And the practice for it, Hardcore, he fights against one of Kyoko's familiars, and he actually manages to beat one, but it's not really that impressive at all. It's really not. Literally all he did the entire time was block it. Cone is the one who actually had some actual offense, and Cone was actually helping him, so it was 2-on-1 the entire time. So it's not an accomplishment to beat someone 2-on-1 unless the person's like Doflamingo or Madara or Yuha Bach or someone who's actually good, not Kyoko. But well, okay, whatever. um, they're practicing for the practical exam. That's why they had that little sparring session. And it turns out the practical exam is going to have nothing to do with fighting. It's going to be the purification of a spirit disaster, which that process in general is going to have some strange type of effect on Toji, because the principal Karahashi, she brings him into her office and is talking to him, saying he's going to have a handicap and all this stuff because of how it might affect him and all this. So we don't really know how exactly it's going to affect him until like towards the end of the episode, and even then it's still not entirely clear, but it's kind of iffy. But after this scene with him and Mio, I think that's her name, Mio Kurahashi. But after that, we see a scene with this guy who later we find out his name is Chihiro Mutobe. We see him talking with Domon, and Domon, he's plotting something. We technically don't have a confirmation, but I'm assuming that Domon is the leader of the Twin Horn Syndicate that was mentioned later on in the episode. But I'll get to that when I get to it. Chihiro, he has this. I don't want to call him a Yako devotee, but he refers to Natsume as King of the North Star, and he's not insane like the rest of the Yako. Well, we've only really seen one Yako devotee, but he's not insane like the last guy. But still, he might kind of be. He might be one of those Yako devotees. You never know. But while he sees Natsume and Harutora and like everyone walking down the street, he notices something about Toji, which is probably the fact that he does have some after effects from a spirit disaster type of thing from a couple years ago. But after this, we go to Otomo. He goes to this place to talk to Chief Amami, and he's close with the principal, Mio Karashi, and he's probably the chief for the Magical Investigation Bureau. I don't think we get a legitimate confirmation on that, but I'm guessing that's the bureau he's the chief of, not because Kyoko's dad is the chief of the Exorcism Bureau, or the head, or whatever the proper term is, whatever his actual title is. I'm guessing Chief Amami is the chief of the Magical Investigation Bureau because he mentions how, back when that Yako devotee was attacking Natsume, Otomo had to be the one to take care of it, and he refers to that in this episode, and how it was, his incident that he had to clean up and stuff like that. But apparently Otomo, he used to work with the Magical Investigation Bureau. He used to work for Chief Amami. We end up getting introduced to his replacement, Atsune Hirata. I think that's his name, Atsune Hirata. And he's directing the investigation for the Twin Horn Syndicate, which, like I said before, I'm pretty sure that's what Domon leads. That's the group that Domon is in charge of. But apparently 2 years ago, the Twin Horn Syndicate was responsible for that big the spirit disaster, and they tried to put the blame on the Ghost Division, whatever that is. I really just don't know what to say about that. Apparently, the chief of the Ghost Division was Shido Dairenji, who I would assume is Suzuka's father, but maybe he's an uncle or another brother or something like that. Who knows? Maybe he's a cousin. I don't know, but he was related to Suzuka. But he was also the leader of the Ghost Division. It ended up being disbanded. But we learned that Chihiro Mutobe was actually a member of that Ghost Division in the past. He was Dairenji's right-hand man. We also learned from Matsune that Chief Amami is currently one of the 12 Divine Generals, so he's pretty strong. We also learned that Otomo was a former member of the 12 Divine Generals, probably before he got his leg cut off. Then once he lost his leg, then he kind of dropped the title. But still, he's pretty legit. He's pretty legit. So no wonder Natsume was freaking out last week. I mean, I'm sure. Well, maybe she does know, but I would assume that most people don't know he was a former member of the. Well, then again, most people do know about the 12 Divine Generals. So who knows? There's a lot of mystery surrounding him. But they end up getting into this talk about Kyoko's dad. You know, like I said before, he's the head of the Exorcism Bureau. They're talking about these guys, Kogure and Kagami, and we meet Reiji Kagami later on in the episode. He's one of the 12 Divine Generals, and he also has the nickname Ogre Eater. But they're talking about this guy Kogure as well. They mention how Kyoko's dad is hard to control. They say something about the Twin Horns Syndicate planning something, which is obvious since we've seen Domon going around doing all this. Well, not doing all this stuff, but talking to shady people. Apparently, the thing that they're trying was, I think they call it the D personage or something like that. So it's probably some type of will of D. I don't even know. I don't even know what to think about that. Probably some type of will of D thing. You know, with some people who are special because they have D in their. I don't even know. I'll just leave that. I'll just leave that there. But after this, we end up seeing Toji and Harutora. They're talking, and we learn that. Well, we don't really learn much, but we kind of get the sense that the after effects of that spiritual disaster that Toji was affected by, it could cause. They could escalate. Those after effects could escalate into something really bad. We don't really know what, but Toji tells Harutori, you know, don't worry about it. It's not going to get that bad. So we don't know what exactly it is. I'm assuming it has to do with him transforming into an ogre, since at the end of the episode, Reiji says, you know, this guy's a half ogre or something like that, and we see the phasey horns. But again, there's really not much we can say without a shadow of a doubt, because in this series they don't really confirm a lot of things. They just leave things hanging around and make you figure it out for yourself, which I mean I'm perfectly capable of doing. It's just that we never, until it's actually confirmed, it's nothing more than a theory. So you know, whatever. Eventually, I guess they'll confirm it eventually, whenever they feel like it. But also, for the record, I read the manga, but the last chapter of the manga that was scanlated was this part with like Natsume summoning Hokuto and taking out that spiritual disaster and stuff like that. And it didn't even get to the part where Reiji shows up. So from this point on, I have no clue what's going to happen. But just figured I'd throw that in there. After that conversation that Toji and Harutora have, the day of the exam finally comes. They have to purify the spirit disaster, and there's all this black miasma. I don't even really know what a spirit disaster is at this point. At first I thought it was like the miasma shooting up from the ground and everything, but then it turns out that monster, that chimera type, whatever thing is a spirit disaster as well. So I don't even really know what a spirit disaster is right now. I guess it's a lot of things. It's not very specific. Probably just anything involving spirit. No, but they're not even really spirits, though. They're familiar. Oh, I wish the series would confirm things. They they're trying to purify the spirit disaster, get rid of all the black miasma. Natsume isn't participating because she's just too good. That's just how things are. She's too good, so she can't help them. She's not allowed to take part in the exam. And all of a sudden, the miasma kind of goes crazy. It starts shooting up higher. There's a bunch more of it. And these disasters, all these miasmas start popping up everywhere. And Toji, this is when he starts to get affected by it. He kind of shrinks down. He's grabbing his head. He's in pain. And he says that he's still in control. He tells Haruto not to touch him, and that he's still barely in control. I guess that when he's like that, being in I don't think he meant it like as an insult, like get away from me, you know. I think he meant it like being in contact with humans kind of intensifies the effects. Then again, Haruto kind of hoisted him up onto his shoulders and was supporting him. Not hoisted him up, but he was supporting him. So, later on in the episode for a good like 2-3 minutes or so at least. But I don't know. Again, they don't confirm things. But he does say that he's still in control, so that means that it's possible for him to lose control, whether it is something that's actually trying to take control of him, or just, I guess it's the ogre that's trying to take control of him or something like that. Again, they don't confirm things. But we see these guys, and I don't even know what to consider them. I guess they're people from some bureau, but they're talking about how it's 2 years ago all over again with that spirit disaster. I think they called it spirit disaster terrorism. With people using spirit disasters. But that's when the Chimera type spirit disaster shows up. Natsume, she summons Hokuto, gets rid of all the miasma, purifies it, I guess would be the proper terminology. She purifies the miasma. And then like, now that okay, sorry, I misspoke before. I said the Chimera type showed up. It technically didn't show up. It didn't show up there, but it showed up like in the episode. That's where we see it for the first time. We see it for the first time. Then Natsume summons Hokuto. Then Toji feels the Chimera type coming. Then after Toji, then Kon reacts to it. So Toji, I guess his spiritual senses are higher than Kon's when it comes to like when he's in that state. I don't know if it's like that in general, like all the time, but when he's in that state, his spiritual senses are better than Kon's. But that's when they called it a Phase 3 Niue. Again, I really don't, all this terminology, all the spirit disaster stuff, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. They need to explain spirit disasters more in depth. But after the Chimera shows up, the Ogre Eater, like I said before, Reiji Kagami, he shows up. Or Kagami, he shows up. We learn that he is also a divine. So like 3 in 1 episode. 3 divine generals in 1 episode. Like I said before, he's one of the guys that Amami was talking about. How he, I think he was mentioning how he wouldn't like to. He doesn't want to have to use Kagami for different jobs, so he'd rather call Otomo. Probably because he wouldn't be able to trust Reiji to actually do what he wants him to do. He's probably hard to control as well. But he shows up and he starts doing all this OP stuff, like doing all these incantations without actually having to, all these spells without having to do the incantations, and just doing all this stuff. Just with his words alone, he silences the Chimera type. He tells the professor to stay still, whatever, and he's like frozen in place. Yeah, you know, he's just doing some really OP stuff. And then he hears from one of the teachers that Kyoko is a Kurahashi. And that's when he realizes, oh, this is Omyo Prep. that must mean that the Tsuchimikado guy is here. So then he walks up to Natsume. He's like, I bet it's you, isn't it? And she's like, yeah, you know, it's I'm Natsume Tsuchimikado. Then he kind of just starts screwing with her. And Harutora, he literally sits there and does nothing. He's got Toji over his shoulders and he just sits there and watches as his master, as the girl he swore to protect, is being screwed around with by this guy. He just doesn't do anything. Then the Chimera type comes out of not doesn't come out of nowhere, but he jumps up to attack them. He just takes it out. Natsume actually starts to lecture Reiji, and that's when he starts to get physical with her, like grabs her by the collar and stuff like that, grabs her by the throat. And even then, Harutora doesn't do anything. He just sits there. He's like, let go of her. You know, he doesn't do it. Hokuto has to come in and do the actual protecting. You know, he's supposed to be like, I get that Toji's in an, you know, kind of the state that he's in right now isn't exactly the best, but you have to, he's in a delicate state and everything, but maybe you should just delicately place him on the ground and go protect the person you swore to protect. At the end of the day, Toji's going to be fine. After all, he told you not to touch him. Just leave him there. Go protect Natsume like you promised. Right? Do your job. Right? Harutora is an awful familiar. I don't know why. I mean, he's the main character, obviously, but Hishimaru, Kakugyoki, whichever one he's supposed to be, the tiger. You know, he's not really living up to those titles right now. He's really not. He's not protecting Knots. Never mind. I'm just gonna, if I keep talking, I'm just gonna go on for like another 20 minutes. But oh, it's already been 17 minutes. Jesus Christ. Like I said before, Hokuto comes in, does the actual protecting. Then we see the Chihiro guy. He uses this spirit tag type of thing, and he creates a bunch of miasma on top of the Chimera, and that helps it recover. Then it gets away. And this is when Reiji looks over at Toji and finds out that there's an ogre attached to him, and that he's a half ogre. And, like I said before, he has these horns and everything underneath his bandana, and that probably means that Reiji's going to try and attack him or kill him or do something to him, because he's the ogre eater, right? And then there's an ogre right in front of him, so he's obviously going to do something. Whether that means just detaching the ogre from Toji and actually helping him out, or just killing him outright. He's going to do something to Toji, so that should be interesting to see next episode. But that's pretty much it. Overall, I guess I'd give this episode, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. I was going to give it an 8, but I decided to give it an 8.5. There were some scenes that I don't really care about, like the prep for the exam. But there was a lot of information when it comes to Amami and Otomo and Atsune. Then we got to see Reiji for the first time. He did some cool stuff, so a lot of stuff happened. So I'll give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. But that's it for now. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.